It is cold in America tonight, a deep, biting, sub-zero cold, the kind of cold that cracks pavement and steals breath. And yet today, across this nation, in Minneapolis, in Los Angeles, in New York, in Chicago, in Cleveland, tens of thousands of people marched directly into that freeze. They did not march for warmth. They chose the cold to protest a different kind of chilling effect altogether. They marched against what they see taking shape in the warm, well-lit offices of power, the architecture of a police state being drafted, funded, and deployed in real time by their own government. A police state. It is not a phrase we use lightly here. It is not hyperbole. It is a specific, terrifying mechanism, the perversion of policing power away from public safety and toward the singular goal of crushing dissent, of terrorizing a populace into submission to a single political will. And for the past year, we have watched the federal government, not at its edges, but at its law enforcement core, begin that transformation. We have watched as armed federal agents push into American communities, not with warrants, but with warnings. Accept the political wins of Donald Trump or suffer the consequences. And tonight, the consequences are becoming corpse cold clear. We now have masked secret police on American streets who have shot and killed two nonviolent protesters, Renee Good, Alex Pretty. Say their names. Remember their names. They were recorded dying on camera phones, their final moments a viral testament to something rupturing in this country. And here is the first gaping open loop in this story. We still do not know the identities of the federal agents who killed them. The government has not told us. The men behind the masks, the ones who pulled the triggers on American citizens, are secrets kept by their own employer, you, the taxpayer. Instead of answers, today, we got the President of the United States offering a verdict. He called Alex Pretty, the man shot dead on the street, an agitator and perhaps an insurrectionist. A posthumous character assassination from the Oval Office, a justification whispered over a grave not yet filled. And as that rhetoric hangs in the air, the action on the ground accelerates. MSNBC is now reporting that ICE is planning to move into Ohio next week. Their target, thousands of Haitian migrants, thousands of whom, and this is critical, received explicit written permission from the U.S. government to stay here and to work. This is not about illegal entry. This is about revocation. This is about punishment. This is about demonstrating that any promise, any status, any safety can be unmade with a single executive whim. And the method of that unmaking is where the story curdles from the visibly brutal to the digitally sinister. Because those masked agents are still grabbing citizens. They are taking their pictures, and they are entering them into a system. Then they are confronting those same people on the streets and calling them by name. How? Today, multiple current and former officials revealed to the New York Times the depth of the surveillance dragnet. ICE is using not one, but two separate facial recognition programs in Minnesota. They are using cell phone and social media monitoring tools to track online activity. They are, according to the report, potentially hacking into phones. And they are tapping into a database built by the data analytics company Palantir that combines government and commercial data to identify the real-time locations of individuals they are pursuing. Think about that. Your loyalty card, your toll pass, your online purchases, your social media check-ins, woven together with your federal tax records, your driver's license photo, to create a live trackable dot on a map for a masked agent in a van. This is the infrastructure of a police state. It is not built with barbed wire and guard towers. It is built with code, with data brokers, with secrecy, and with a sweeping, terrifying interpretation of executive power. And today, they topped it all off by coming for the journalists. Because when truth is your enemy, the free press is the front line. Federal agents arrested 4 people, including former CNN anchor Don Lemon and an award-winning independent journalist, Georgia Fort. The connection? An anti-ICE protest nearly 2 weeks ago at a church where one of the pastors is also an ICE field director. The charge? Conspiring to, and I'm reading directly from the filing here, injure, oppress, threaten, and intimidate persons at the church to deprive them of their constitutional right to free religion. Let's just sit with that for a moment. A protest at a church involving a pastor who is also a federal immigration officer is now being prosecuted as a federal conspiracy against religion, the weaponization of the First Amendment to attack the First Amendment. But the arrest of Georgia Fort, this is where the chill becomes a physical frost. She was awoken in the dead of night by a knock on her door. Masked DEA agents, the Drug Enforcement Administration, remember why are they there, were on her doorstep, looking in her windows. As they waited, she managed to post a message to social media. I wanted to alert the public that agents are at my door right now. This is all stemming from the fact that I filmed a protest as a member of the media. It's hard to understand how we have constitutional rights when you can just be arrested for being a member of the press. All right, guys, I gotta go. They're knocking. Little context here as we let that sink in. Last year, the former Speaker of the Minnesota State House was shot and killed, assassinated, by a man who showed up at her door pretending to be law enforcement. So just put that in your head. Then, for it to be actual federal agents in the night coming for a journalist who filmed a protest. The vice president of the National Association of Black Journalists in Minnesota, who was in the courtroom for the sentencing of George Floyd's killer, was taken away in the cold by those same masked, kitted-out DEA agents. Now, the feds claim Lemon and Fort were agitators of the protest. But as you can see for yourself, and we've been doing a lot of see for yourself lately, because of the torrent of lies that emanate from this administration, here is the footage of Don Lemon in that church. We're not part of the act. I'm just going to be as respectful as possible. I'm not here to intimidate anybody. I'm just here to chronicle and get some answers. Chronicle and get some answers. The job description of a journalist since the founding of the Republic. Since that protest, a federal magistrate judge and an appeals court have already rejected the charges as baseless. This basically never happens. Federal magistrates almost never knock the feds back like this, and they are almost never overruled on appeal. But Lemon predicted it wasn't over. He said, I know the Trump administration doesn't have a healthy respect for journalism. This is not a victory lap for me because it's not over. They're going to try again. And guess what? Here I am. Keep trying. This morning, they tried again. They arrested Don Lemon in Los Angeles as he prepared to cover the Grammy Awards. After arraignment, Georgia Fort emerged from the courthouse to supporters, and Lemon struck a defiant tone. I've spent my entire career covering the news. I will not stop now. In fact, there is no more important time than right now. He is right. And this is not an isolated incident. It is a pattern. Donald Trump is sending government forces after critics, opponents, and those he views as insufficiently obedient across a whole array of institutions. Look at the ladder of power. Today, he announced a politically connected replacement for Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, even though Powell's term has 5 months left. And remember, Powell is still under criminal investigation by Trump's own Department of Justice. Coincidence or coercion? Then, of course, there was Wednesday's FBI raid of the Fulton County Election Office in Georgia. Boxes and boxes and boxes of ballots hauled away. Fulton County, Georgia, the bullseye of Trump's 2020 election lies. And who was apparently overseeing this law enforcement operation? Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, an office with zero law enforcement powers, a person who has become a leading MAGA election truther, now with the full force of the federal government apparently at her disposal to pursue those theories. Again, all of this is being done under the color of law enforcement, coming from an administration that has demonstrated no qualms about breaking the law when it suits them, which brings us to the files everyone has been waiting for. The Epstein files, today, 42 days after they were legally required to release them. The Justice Department decided to get around to it. Who made the announcement? Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Now, Todd Blanche is a Trump defense attorney. He represented Donald Trump in the New York civil fraud case. Officials who have worked with him say he still views the president as his client. This is the man overseeing the release of the most sensitive files into a decades-long sex trafficking scandal that has implicated princes, presidents, and billionaires. Today, Blanche announced the dump of 3 million new documents. This is the same Todd Blanche who last year wrote a memo stating the department had looked at every single file and concluded there was nothing further to see, no client list, no new names, case shut. That was Todd Blanche. Now today, Todd Blanche says they finally completed their comprehensive document identification and review process. The delays, he claimed, were to protect victims, not to protect Trump. Our job here is done, he said. This is now the second time Todd Blanche has told the American public, there's nothing more to see here. We are going to have a lot more on what we are actually learning from those files later in the show. And I will tell you this, there are some pretty shocking things in them. Questions that these newly released documents do not answer, but scream. And in the same press conference, Todd Blanche also casually mentioned an investigation had been opened into the death of Alex Pretty, though he suggested it wasn't a civil rights probe and gave no details. He defended the FBI raid on the Georgia election office and Tulsi Gabbard's role in it. And he ignored a question about the numerous federal prosecutors in Minneapolis who have resigned in protest, prosecutors who appear to have quit because Blanche's office told them to open a criminal investigation not into the agent who shot Renee Good, but into Renee Good herself after she was killed. Do you see it? The convergence? The man overseeing the release of the Epstein files is the same man overseeing the investigations into protesters killed by federal agents, is the same man whose office is pursuing journalists, is the same man defending weaponized election raids. The threads all lead back to the same spool: the power to surveil, the power to arrest, the power to prosecute, the power to raid, the power to release or conceal damning information, all of it being funneled through a political apparatus loyal to one man. The point here is this administration has already shown it is willing to break the law. Now it is feverishly building the apparatus to enforce its own version of the law, a version where dissent is insurrection, journalism is conspiracy, and your data is your leash. They shot and killed 2 citizens who stood in their way. They are arresting journalists who film them. They are building a real-time surveillance state to track anyone else who might think of doing the same. It is cold in America tonight, but the cold outside is not the thing that should frighten you the most. The wolf is no longer at the door, America. It is in the house, it is putting its feet up, and it is learning all of our names. We'll be right back.